The Return to Nature 2025 retreat is just months away, and I am so excited. I get more and more excited as the schedule gets finalized. So we've got all of our speakers on board, and each one of them is going to give an amazing talk about something very important about utilizing nature and understanding things like light, water, earthing, the ether, and just cold, for example, as ways to support human health that are just overlooked these days by mainstream medical authorities. And one of the things that we are also offering are experiential activities. And again, very, very cool ones that we've curated from a very, very interesting version of breathwork that I'm super excited about, a guided breathwork session. Also, yoga nidra is going to be a lovely way to understand how you can put your body into deep relaxation. So a guided deep relaxation. And another one that we have that I'm super excited about is cold and a cold experience. And while a lot of people think, uh-oh, I don't want to go to a retreat and do a full body immersion, there might be a bit of hesitancy. We get in our own way sometimes. It's like, I don't want to wear a swimsuit with that many people around, or I don't want to get that wet. And what we've curated here is an experience from Nathan Siles, who is going to speak about cold face plunging. And so I just figured I would put a little bit of education around that, because it seems like, what effect could cold face plunging possibly have on human health and human physiology beyond maybe feel refreshing or splashing a little cold water into the face to wake us up? And it goes so much beyond that. So number one, when you have cold face plunging, essentially you've got a cold tub and you immerse your face into it. And when you do so, you're holding your breath. So you've got a couple of stimuli, if you will. One of those stimuli is holding the breath, and the things that happens when we consciously hold our breath, as opposed to things that happen when we unconsciously hold our breath or have more what are called apneic episodes or apnea style episodes. And that happens a lot these days. Apneic or apnea breathing or breath holding, so unconscious holding of the breath, happens all the time these days when we're actually in front of our work computers or even on our phones. They call it email apnea, and that is not a healthy version of breathing. But when we can understand when we consciously hold our breath and are aware of it, we actually can do some amazing things for our health. And I'm just going to touch the tip of the iceberg here on it. The other thing is when you submerge your face in water, that water, especially if it's a cooler temperature, activates something called the mammalian dive reflex. And so this is a reflex that's built into us that needs both the breath hold and the face submerged in order to activate. And so what's going on here with this? Like, what am I doing besides like, yeah, okay, I'm waking up my face? Okay, well, at the very, very most basic level, this is a key way that you could start to build cold adaptation or cold tolerance training, because the skin of the forehead plus the palms of the hand and soles of the feet, it has a specific term to it. It's called glabrous skin. And glabrous skin is uniquely sensitive to temperature variations, especially cold. So let's say you've heard about brown adipose tissue and how you can activate your mitochondria by exposing those mitochondria in the brown adipose tissue to cold. But you're just too timid to do a full body plunge, which is perfectly fine. That's a very, very normal place to be when you're starting out with just understanding how cold impacts the body. And so instead, I've had many people start to utilize cold simply through cold face plunging. So that glabrous skin senses that there's a drop in temperature in the environment, and it starts to tell the mitochondria that live in what's called brown adipose tissue, which is the tissue, believe it or not, that's fat. It's fat tissue, but it's not pinchable, subcutaneous fat tissue. It is fat tissue that lives mostly along this portion of our body right here, and it's loaded with mitochondria. And in response to cold, those mitochondria are designed to make more heat for us. They can essentially flow protons into the center of the mitochondria at a fast rate. And that flow of protons generates body heat. And so that's a way that we can actually start to cold adapt simply through cold face plunging. Now, when you combine the cold face plunge with the breath hold, that's where then you've got the effects of what's called a conscious breath hold. So a conscious breath hold is one of those ones where you are essentially start learning how to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So why would we want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system through this? Well, or why would the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest nervous system, reflexively activate when we are plunged underwater and holding our breath? Well, think about it. If we are underwater and if we're submerged underwater, the body automatically responds to it as saying, this may be a life-threatening situation. And if we freak out, and if the heart rate goes up drastically, and if, I start to shake, or if I start to do some aggressive stress response, that's actually going to deplete oxygen levels faster than if the reverse were to happen and I were to actually go into a very calm state. So what you have happening with the mammalian dive reflex is you have the body taking autonomic control, which is control beyond what you're consciously trying to direct. And it allows the body to get into a parasympathetic activation. This is happening through also the activation of a specific part of the brain called the paraventricular nucleus. And so what's interesting here is it's almost like you're toning that paraventricular nucleus in terms of when to activate the relaxation response, which these days is downregulated and inhibited in a lot of people, versus when you tell that paraventricular nucleus, that part of the brain, to activate the stress response. Because essentially that specific part of the brain in the hypothalamus is directly responsible for either secreting cortisol because we need to fight or flee, we're feeling something that's threatening, or suppressing cortisol, and again, putting the body into that calmer state. When you put the body into that calmer state, specifically in a mammalian dive reflex capacity, you also shunt blood flow to the brain and to the heart, so to the most essential organs, so that they can continue to get oxygen and nutrients and then diminish and start to continue to excrete waste products. And so it's almost like mini exercise and toning for the brain and the heart right there because of that specific shunting of the blood. And again, who knew that this is the tip of the iceberg? Nathan's going to go into so many more details about this. I'm super excited to hear his presentation and to experience this, because what he is going to do is utilize snorkels to help us hold our breath at times, but also stay underwater for extended periods. And that extended cold exposure to the face has other important benefits that he's going to highlight at the retreat. So again, so fascinating that we can do something as simple as cold face plunging, and it can have so many downstream benefits to our health. So yeah, I'm super excited for this Return to Nature retreat. I would love to see you there. There's going to be some amazing speakers and experiential activities. It's an amazing facility and grounds. There are essentially 160 acres of nature to explore. So we welcome you, whether you're new to circadian and quantum biology, or you're just one of our expert friends. We would love to see you there and share in the learning and share in the experience together.